Hey guys, so today I'm going to give you 10 reasons why I hate my Ford Mustang Mach-E. So stay tuned. Hey guys, so the first reason that I'm pretty disgruntled about this car is kind of a major nuisance to me at least, is the radio channels, the rows keep changing randomly and it's really annoying. So when I first get into the car, you power up just like this. So as you can see, I have 2 rows of my channels, so 10 total channels of the radio. Well, when I got this vehicle, 2 rows was completely fine, but it kept switching to 3 rows, and I was like, why is it doing this? So I just happened to just change them back to 3 rows. And it was kind of happy for a little bit, but I would say almost maybe every 2 weeks or so, I have to change this back. It's like it doesn't even save the settings for the 3 rows. So I'm going to show you how we change it. So basically you go up to the car, and then you go into settings, you go into radio, and I have this down packed because I have to do it all the time. See preset rows? There's 2. Well, I always turn it to 3. And then you go back, and there you go. You have all my channels now. But yet, it never saves this for some odd reason. And I always have to change it back to 3 because when I boot the car, it always goes back to 2. Luckily, this should be just a simple software fix. All right, so the second reason that I'm a little disgruntled is it's not too much of a bad thing, but it's still an annoyance factor. Is when you plug this car in to charge, the charging estimated ETA time is always off. It just always is. I had a video of my fast charging, and it estimated that I would fully charge in 44 minutes. From 10 to 80%. I have a video on this. You guys can go check it out. It's in the link right there. Now, that's fine. So 44 minutes, I was in and out of Walmart in that time. I timed myself, all that stuff. But it was actually done in 42 minutes. So now, yes, 2 minutes is not off by that much. Now, for level 2, it's actually off kind of significantly. So I'll plug in at work. We have level 2 chargers. It charges at maybe approximately 18 miles per hour. Well, just doing the math, I know that it's going to take, 6.5 hours to get to 90% charge. Well, this screen, which I'm going to show you here. So this screen, once I plug in, it'll give you an estimate right here of how long it's actually going to take and when it's going to finish. Well, when I plug in the morning, it should finish about, let's just say 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, it's actually wrong. With constant current of level 2, and I know it's at 6.6 kilowatts that it's giving me, it should be able to easily estimate that to like the minute or two. But yet it's actually off by an hour to 30 minutes. So, or 30 minutes to an hour, which, it's not bad. At work, we have a lot of Teslas and Nissan Leafs and all those EVs. Well, we all try to share the chargers. We have 6 of them at work, and there's like 12 of us that share. So we try to just charge as much as we can and then get out of there. Well, when we're talking, I'm like, oh yeah, mine will finish at 2:30. Well, I kind of look like an idiot because it actually finishes at, 1:30 or 1 o'clock. It's like little things like here and there that shouldn't happen. We have the technology to actually guesstimate that really well. So it should be less than a half an hour, I would assume. With the technology that we have, we should be able to estimate that better, and we should be able to get within that half an hour ETA time. At least I believe, because that gives us a good indication, especially like if you're level 2 charging at a campsite or something like that, you walk away and you're like, I'm gonna unplug and plug it into like the trailer for whatever reason, to power up the trailer for dinner, etc. Well, if you estimate to come back at like 2:30 and it's actually done at 1:30, you could have started earlier. It's not a bad thing, but it's a nuisance. All right, the next nuisance that I think is actually pretty ridiculous is that whenever you remote start, there's a possibility that you remote start not in your profile, but in the guest profile, which is another nuisance that's really annoying. Ford needs to get that correct. Like, it's annoying. And I'm gonna show you this right now. So sometimes when you remote start, this is actually my profile with the E. It's labeled Ryan, okay? And then you have another profile. You can make as many profiles as you want. Well, there's this guest profile. And when you go into that, it changes it to the guest, which is like basically the easiest way to drive this vehicle, because there's a lot to this vehicle, like regenerative braking, how fast you want to accelerate, the different drive modes, etc. So sometimes when I remote start using the app, it'll boot up into guest mode, which is kind of annoying because it doesn't have any of my settings. I like the dark mode, as you can kind of see on the top. This is the dark mode, this is the light mode, and then even over here it switches to the light mode, and it changes all the parameters of the vehicle, including the radio. So usually when I boot up, I'm like, okay, I'm listening to music and I'm noticing they're not my channels, and then also the white screen. I'm like, it shouldn't happen like that. So I always have to go back into this, switch it back to Ryan profile, and then now I have everything that I need. So my radio stations are there. But with the technology we have nowadays, this should not even be a thing. So this next one is a nuisance that it actually turned me completely away from Ford's navigation, because it's just an annoyance that got to me so much that I just kind of use Google Maps now. Now, again, Ford bought a subscription for Google Maps, and that's what actually their Navi system is using. But my nuisance was with the option to turn on and off tollways, so I wouldn't go on a tollway. So out here in Colorado, we have multiple interstates that on the very, very far left lane is a tollway. And it'll charge you for every, exit that you go. But if you go on the right lanes, you're completely fine. It's just a freeway, really. Well, when I would plug in like Meade, Colorado, going from Broomfield, Colorado to Meade, Colorado, it would take me, normally Google Maps would say, hey, take 25 north, which is a major interstate, and go, 20 minutes down the road and then you're there. Well, it understands that the left lane is actually tollway and then the right lanes are freeway, which is fine because you're always going to do freeway if you want. Well, when you type that into the Navi system, it would completely go around 25. So you're taking back roads to get up to Meade, and that doesn't make sense whatsoever, because it should know that the right lanes are toll-free and the left lane is tollway. And actually, I tried this out just recently, and I saw that Ford actually fixed this issue, which I'm very happy about. But it aggravated me before, so I'm glad they finally did a software update and finally fixed this. But I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about, because this was such a major annoyance that I wouldn't even use their Navi system. So on the screen right now, you can see that I'm in Broomfield and I want to go to Meade, Colorado. Well, it's making, before the update, it would make me go all on this side road BS, honestly, all the way to Longmont and then cut over to get to Meade, where clearly 25 is right here. Why don't we just go across and go 80 miles an hour all the way up, where these are back roads going 50, 60 miles an hour? That is such an annoyance, where this is what it really should be. Right here. See, I just cut out over across and then go up to 25, and then we're doing 80 miles an hour. Now, it's just an annoyance factor because we should always be using the fastest route, and if it's free, based on my settings. Which the settings, you just go into down here, click settings, and then avoidances right here are tolls and fees. And it's off right now, and that's the way it should be, because I don't want to pay tolls on a road that really I don't need to pay tolls on. So for this next one, I'm going to complain about the Frunk. Now, obviously Tesla came out with the Frunk for the very first time, and they thought, hey, let's make it automatic. Well, Ford, what are you thinking not making it automatic? So I'm going to show you right now how we're supposed to open this Frunk. So you go down here, And you can see it's a ×2. So you pull it once, it unlocks it. And then the second one is an electronic unlock or something like that. I don't know. But you pull it twice, which is completely fine, I guess. And then you come over here and you just lift it with ease. And now you got your frunk. But Ford, come on, like, that's a simple software update. I don't, there's no excuse. There really is no excuse that it has to be a manual process. There's nothing in this car, at least in the infotainment center, nothing in the center screen. It doesn't matter. There is nothing to open that automatically. It's literally just a manual lever. Now, Ford has stated that it's a update that's coming really soon, because they're kind of making a major update very soon. They said in the early fall, which, you know what, we're in fall now. So maybe that's why they fixed actually the maps, the issue that my last nuisance. Well, they said that it's gonna come with an automatic opener through the app, through the screen, and that's honestly the way it really should be. So I really look forward to using the frunk more often, because right now I really don't, unless we have just so much cargo that I use the frunk, because it's just an annoyance. There's no reason I should have to pull it twice for it to work, you know, like, just make it automatic. Everything else is automatic in this car, and most other cars actually. So this next complaint that I want to make is it's good and bad. It's really bad for planning, but good in the sense of you're not using so much energy as much as you assume you're going to use for a road trip. Now, right now, I'm going to plug in that we're going to go from Denver, Colorado to Chicago, Illinois. Just blatantly just put it in the nav, and you can see that right here. So looking at the screen, you can see from Denver, Colorado to Chicago, Illinois. I'm going to stop a few times, but my complaint is this. It says it's going to I should charge for 20 minutes to get to 50%, then 40 minutes to get to 67%, and etc. Now, this vehicle is way too conservative, and you've heard this a million times from so many of these owners, and I'm one of them. And it's a good thing, because when they gave the EPA range of 270, I have never seen that range yet. The highest I've seen was 352 miles, and the lowest I've ever seen was like 280 miles. Now, winter months is going to change that, I understand. But as far as the EPA goes, they severely underestimated this, and we are well over the EPA range, which is a good thing. Now, what I'm complaining about is when you're on a road trip, it really gets this percentage wrong. It's more conservative. So it's going to say, hey, go to the Electrify America Walmart Supercenter, which is an hour and 20 minutes away, and then charge for 20 minutes until you get to 50%. Fine and dandy. The thing is, I guarantee you, when I get to this Electrify America, I will easily be maybe in the 40% range. And it'll take me only like 5 minutes to get up to 50%. So it's kind of, it's just wrong in the sense that if you're actually trying to do a road trip and you're like, okay, I need to stop at this place, I got 20 minutes to eat really quick. In reality, you only got 5 minutes to eat. And then when you get to the next place, it's going to say, okay, charge for 40 minutes to get to 67%. In reality, it's most likely going to be 25 minutes to get to 67%. It's because this vehicle is it's so efficient, using all those electrons, that the planning is actually going to be off. I don't fully understand how Ford calculates this. They really do the worst case scenario, and they most likely ran this car so much that they just got all this data, and then they're like, okay, we're going to deviate by maybe 20%. Right now, I'm averaging 3.7 miles a kilowatt. I do a very large amount of interstate driving, but I've done in the past, you know, a few weeks ago, for the Tesla comparison on a highway, that if I'm going 80 miles an hour and I don't stop for 100 miles, I'm getting about maybe 3.1 and up range. The lowest I saw was 3.1, so I just used that for the last video. Well, I don't know what Ford's doing when they do a road trip, because if I'm getting 3.1 doing 80 miles an hour, I'm assuming on a road trip, I'm gonna hit 80 or probably a little less, maybe 70 to 80. So my efficiency is gonna go up a little bit. Where are they getting the miles per kilowatt that they're off by a significant portion? That when I arrive at a Electrify America station, I'm actually at a higher percentage than what they were estimating. They have all this data, it's getting transmitted to their servers, they understand this, but I don't understand how they're so off. I can see this is better for the customer just because if somebody just randomly gets in the car or buys this car and then goes on a road trip, they're not freaking out because, oh my God, I'll get to the destination with 5%, the computer is saying. Well, in reality, it's actually most likely 20% because they're so conservative. So it's a good thing on that, but it's also just the planning is just off though, because I've had it where I went on a small mini road trip and it said, okay, you need to charge for 30 minutes at this Electrify America to get to this percentage. Well, I only had to charge for 10 minutes. So me and my wife had to run inside really quick, eat lunch, and then come out, which again, it really isn't a bad thing because it's less waiting, but it's just a nuisance that they're so far off with how conservative they are with the percentage left. All right, guys, so this next nuisance, again, I apologize, was actually just recently fixed by Ford. I swear this was not this way last week. Again, I'm going to use the scenario of driving from Denver, Colorado to Chicago. Now, the nuisance that I have is when I plugged that in last week, it was making me stop at level 2 chargers. And you know level 2 chargers are just slow. They average, anywhere from 10 to 40 miles per hour of charge. That's just not fast enough when you're on a road trip. Now, I just did this on the map, and now they give us options, which is actually pretty awesome. Now, the first option I'm going to show you is right here. As you can see on the screen, the first option is to use Electrify America stations, which will charge your car really incredibly fast. And then the second option is now level 2 chargers is mixed in with Electrify America. Now, this was just annoying because it adds so much extra time. Like last week when I looked at this, it said like to get from Denver to Chicago would take 64 hours because I was stopping at level 2 chargers and sitting there for 10 hours before I can move to get to the next spot. And I thought that was so stupid, and it gave me very little confidence in this Navi system for road trips. But I can see now they actually fixed that because this very first option is 14 hours and 54 minutes. You hit go, and then it calculates. EV chargers are being added to the trip. It calculated, it started nav. You can see I have 6 chargers at 3 hours and 10 minutes that I need to do. So I hit details. And now all these Electrify America stations pop up, which I'm very, very, very happy to see. But I can see where they came from before. I know, like for Tesla, for example, they'll tell you to go to each supercharger. Well, some people like this is a 16-hour drive. Not every supercharger is near their hotel, but a lot of hotels have these level 2 chargers. So I think what Ford was trying to think or do was, hey, we'll get you to your destination, but we're going to show you the level 2 options too, because if you decide to stop for a snack break or whatever, you can still plug in, get a little bit of a charge. Or if you go to a Holiday Inn, they're not going to have these fast chargers. They're just not. And it's most likely, it might be near the Holiday Inn, wherever you're going to stay, but it's not going to be in that parking lot. Well, Ford's like, hey, you know what? Holiday Inns have level 2 chargers for EVs. So we're going to show you that. But I think they shouldn't put that actually in the map. They really shouldn't. I could see like when you get closer to a location or it notices that you're stopping for the night, some way, somehow, I don't know, figure it out. It'll pop up and say like, hey, there's a level 2 charger at this hotel if you want to plug in. And you're like, oh, well, that's the Holiday Inn that I'm staying at. I'm going to plug in for the night. But before, like last week, it would actually tell you to stop at all of these different level 2s instead of these fast chargers. And the trip would have taken multiple days instead of like less than, 24 hours. Well, I'm glad, I'm really happy that they actually fixed that, because that had me have very little confidence in their Navi system. And I downloaded like a better route planner, which a lot of Tesla owners use, and you can type in your own efficiency that you're seeing and then where you need to go, and then they have like a little Navi system there. And I was actually really contemplating, once I go to Chicago, using that. But now seeing this, it actually gives me a lot of confidence, which I'm really happy about. Thank you, Ford, for fixing this. So this next point that I'm going to make is basically the app is not the greatest. It really isn't. It's getting improved constantly. It's like every other day there's constantly an update, which I love to see. And they have these new features that like they're starting to really just really connect you with the car via the app. And I love that about that. Because that's what I kind of miss about not buying a Tesla, because their app is phenomenal and it just really connects you with the car. Well, Ford's getting there, and you got to understand Ford has all these different vehicles that use the exact same Ford Pass app. So they're trying to make it compatible with all their vehicles, plus the EV side of it, which the EV has just so much more capability. So as you can see on the video and on my phone, I'm opening the Ford Pass app, and you can see it takes a little bit of time. You can see that it finally loaded. The vehicle is on currently, but as you can see, it was updated 11 minutes ago. I don't understand why me opening the Ford Pass app, it updates 11 minutes ago when I just updated it, or opened it right now. It should update currently, which doesn't make sense to me whatsoever. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the car, and you can see you long press it, but it takes quite a little bit of time to finally lock the car. And now this is even worse when you're far away from the vehicle, because it takes a while to actually start the car. Now, okay, I unlocked it, and it takes roughly 5 seconds to unlock the car. Not too bad when you're close to the car, but there's been times where I had to unlock my car remotely. I was at work. My wife was trying to get into the car, to get something. And it actually took like 30 seconds to a minute to either unlock the car, lock it, or remote start it. So it's just stuff like that where this app is going to get better and better over time, but it shouldn't really take that long. Given the amount of money we pay for this car, this app should work flawlessly. Now this next point I'm going to make is for all the EV enthusiasts out there. Like me. I want the strongest regen possible in this vehicle, and I feel like we should have full control over that, because it's just technology. We should really be able to have very low regen or very high regen. And reading like Tesla, they used to have that, and now they kind of got rid of it. There's like 2 options I heard, which is like just a smaller one or a larger part of the regen. And I'm wondering why they're actually getting away with this stuff, instead of just giving us the option to like, hey, you know what, you pick the regen. If you hate using your brakes like I do, you get full regen. If you love using your brakes and you want the more traditional car feel where you need to use the brakes constantly, that's your forte. Okay, we'll switch it in here. Now Ford does a weird way of, I think, doing this, and I'm going to show you this now. So as you can see on the screen, what we're going to do is we're going to go into our little car icon, and then we have these different drive modes. We have engaged, whisper, unbridled. Currently I'm in unbridled, which you can see is exhilarating drive, machine and road align as one. And I completely agree with that statement. It is very aggressive braking. It's very aggressive acceleration. The steering wheel is extremely heavy. It really makes you feel like you're connected to the road, which I love. But this one is full regen. Then you get it up to engage, and it changes all the little dynamics. It changes it to blue, which I think is really cool. But engage is a balanced drive, fun and engaging. Now this one, I actually enjoy it a little bit more than I probably should, because I like unbridled, but sometimes you just want a really light steering wheel. You just want to relax for the end of the day. You don't want to feel like you're in a Mustang. And Ford did this really well, where if you go into engage, you get that quick acceleration, you get half-ish regen, but it's a more comfortable ride. But then you go into whisper mode. Now, whisper is a seamless drive, calm and quiet. It really is almost like a luxury vehicle. It rides beautifully. It's very, very light steering, really smooth acceleration. It really changes the regen as well. So you brake more with the actual brake pedal versus regenerative braking. Now, this is fine, but when I first got the vehicle, I personally don't like a heavy steering wheel. I just don't. I really enjoyed Engage, but Engage has so-and-so regen. Well, now I'm forced to actually go into unbridled mode because it has full regen and I had to just get used to the steering wheel. I don't feel like that should be an option. I feel like if you want unbridled, you should be able to change the steering wheel heaviness, the using the brake pedal like one pedal driving, and how much regen you want, and then the sensitivity of the gas pedal. It should just be an option where you should just be able to slide a slider or something. But now I'm actually stuck in unbridled, which I enjoy, but it's a heavier steering. It's very sporty. So I really change between unbridled and engage frequently, because some days after work, I just want that light steering. I just want to get home, relax, all that stuff. I don't need the full, 500 horses and feel the exhilaration of unbridled mode. So I think like if Ford could change the software to actually give us a more customized driving feel, I think that would be perfect, especially because this Mustang, or Mach-E, I should say, because some people don't think this is a Mustang. They're trying to make it compatible with so many different drivers, and I think that would really hit the nail on the head if you could customize this fully the way you want it. Because I like that full regen. I like a lighter steering wheel. But my wife, for example, loves the heavy steering wheel, absolutely hates the one pedal driving, which she could take off, but she should be able to get that option that, hey, after so much driving with this vehicle, she wants to get used to regen. Well, she can't really. She has to just kind of jump into it if she wants that heavy steering feel, because the only one with the heavy steering wheel is unbridled. So I think that's going to be an option in the future, and I really hope Ford actually initiates that. Now, for this last point, it was... I was talking this over with my wife, and I was like, hey, what's the biggest thing that you hate about this Mach-E? And she says, well, I guess if I had to pick one, it would have to be the stiffer suspension. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And I told her, the weight. She has a Ford Edge, and I think I'm like well over 1,000 pounds heavier than her Ford Edge, I should say. Not her. Damn, I'd be pretty big. But anyways, so she said, she's like, yeah, the suspension could be a lot better. And I kind of agreed with her. Now, this is a very, very heavy car. We're pushing almost 48, I think it's well over 4,800 pounds. Now, that's very heavy. And for comparison, my Pontiac G6, my little sedan, was roughly, I think, like 3,800 pounds. Then I moved up to my Ford F-150, the aluminum body. That was pushing 4,400 pounds for the crew cab. And then now I have this vehicle, which is, the size of maybe bigger than Pontiac G6, that's for sure. It's just a crossover, it really is. Well, it's the heaviest at 4,900 pounds. And 1,100 of that pounds is because of the large battery, which I fully understand. So it would really be a lot less without such a gigantic battery, but you wouldn't get the range, obviously. So her complaint is kind of valid and so, because our Mustang, the whole heritage is to have a stiffer suspension for sportier feel. And I knew that going in. And I knew because of that, as well as the extremely heavy battery, that the ride is going to be more stiff. Now, I have full trust in Ford to get this suspension correct. I know they did the best that they possibly could because they've been doing this forever for all their sport cars. And I know that they perfected it as much as they can with this amount of weight and the amount of performance they're trying to get out of it. Now, I think the suspension is pretty decent. Like, yeah, you feel bumps. It's not like a truck where you just glide over it. But it's not also like a sedan where, like right now, you can kind of see that the camera's jittery a little bit because I'm going over some potholes and stuff like that. Well, I think personally the suspension is fine. It's a little bit rougher than I would expect out of a vehicle, especially like a crossover. But with the weight that's behind this, I think it's adequate. But there's some people out there that this won't be acceptable to them, and they're just not going to like EVs because of that. And you know, EVs, I think eventually once suspension technology gets better and better as well, it's going to go back to normal where you got that nice floaty feel, and then you won't have, you know, that rougher feel right now. Thank you again for watching. Please hit that subscribe button if you can. I really appreciate it. And if you can give me a thumbs up, that would be so grateful. I would be so grateful. Again, until next time, guys, take care.